All right, howdy. So today I'm going to do a quick comparison of a couple of older Wampler pedals. One of them I've had several years, and one I just got, neither of which are current in production in their this form exactly. On the right, I have here a Wampler Pinnacle Limited, which is a pretty early series. You can see that all of the labeling on it is actually just kind of one sticker that's been stuck on here, so that you have to kind of figure out which knobs it's pointing to in the middle. And actually, I'm not sure whether this is vintage and this is modern or vice versa. I tend to like it one position or the other. It's got LEDs for on and for boost, and then switches for on and for boost. And that was what made it the limited edition at the time, was that instead of being the smaller form like you see here in this Plextortion, the Pinnacle was also available in that form, and the boost was just a second toggle down here. So this puts the boost on a foot switch, which is very useful. That's a feature that you also see on the triple rec. The triple rec is another amp in a box. So the Pinnacle is supposed to be a Marshall in a box. And it will do everything from plexi to kind of modded JCM 800 80s metal tones. The triple rec is supposed to be a boogie triple rectifier in a box. It has, you can't read all of the labels very well here, but it has volume for the pedal, a hard and brittle switch, gain level, and then down at the bottom here you've got boost contour, treble, middle, and bass, and you've got on and off and then boost, which are confusingly enough reverse from the Pinnacle. Now the triple rec, as I said, isn't actually in production anymore. They've kind of re-envisioned it as a pedal that's more this size. And on that one, the boost is a switch like it is on the smaller version of the Pinnacle. So this is unusual in that the boost is still a foot switch on this. This is a little bit newer, however, than the Pinnacle, in that this one has the mechanical clicking switches, and this one has the electronic switching, which are quieter. Mechanically, you don't really hear a difference in the sound of it while you're playing, although you might on camera here because the camera's so close. But I'm playing today, it's a Les Paul with Seymour Duncan 59s in it. And I'm playing through an amp that's set clean. It's kind of a Marshall-y sound. To actually, I believe 6L6s, but more of kind of British voicing. So here's what it sounds like just with no pedals on. So not what I would call crystalline clean, but Marshall clean. I'm going to go ahead and turn the Pinnacle on first, and this is the setting I use it most often. I'm usually trying to get kind of a good hard classic rock kind of sound. So. So that's kind of on its classic rock voice. If I put it in the modern mode, it gets kind of a harder edge to it. And then if I turn the gain up a little bit more, suddenly we're in kind of 80s metal land. Now, what really shapes the tone most on this pedal is the contour. Instead of, it's got a tone, which I've got set pretty much dead up. but the mid contour on this really shapes the sound of the pedal, and I'll sweep it for you here. I like it about there where it gives me some bite, and again the tone. I don't like to have too much on there. This is the brighter of the two settings. Obviously this one is a little bit mellower. As you can hear, a good amount of gain on tap, and it's still got plenty of individual note definition. Then you've got a foot switchable boost, and there's no control of it externally except on or off, but you can hear the difference in volume, and I'll switch it on while I'm hitting the chord so you can hear the difference. This is mostly useful for a lead boost. So I think generally just a really good, useful all-around pedal. It's definitely the pedal that I've owned the longest, with the exception of my trusty Ibanez Sonic Distortion, and much more versatile. Next is the triple rec. This one has the on-off here and the boost here, and I've got it set kind of at where I think is kind of equivalent, just baseline settings. One thing I will note about this is that the volume of this pedal is quite a bit higher than this one at the same setting. So when I switch this one on, you'll hear it. Now this pedal to me really, it's supposed to be a triple rectifier in a box, but really sounds to me more like a Mark series amp. It sounds a lot like the Mark III that I had. And similarly, whereas the tone controls on Marshalls tend to be pretty much no fault. You can get slightly better or slightly worse, but they don't drastically affect the sound. The controls on this are very, very interactive and very active, both, so that you can really mess your sound up ugly if you set these wrong. And each of them individually does affect the sounds that you can get from the others as well. So here's what I would call just kind of a good basic baseline kind of Mark Series crunch tone. If I switch it over to the brutal side, it gets brighter. So you'll notice, like I said, it's quite a bit louder or quieter than the Pinnacle, and that's the volume, which is almost all the way up. Like a Mark Series amp, if you make the newbie mistake of cranking the gain all the way up and then using the volume to set your level, you'll get kind of a really ugly, muddy, fuzzy blech. If, on the other hand, you back the gain down to somewhere more reasonable, and then set your level with this for the volume. You get a pretty usable kind of gain going on. Now this one has stupid amounts of gain. As I said, you can hear it feeding back. I'm pretty close to the end. Know that song. I'm just kind of riffing on what comes to me as I dial in these tones. I'm going to back this up to what I feel like is a more reasonable tone here, and let me get a bass line. And now I'll show off what the boost control does. So you've got it dialed in here, and you've got this. The boost, I'm sorry. I don't really feel like the boost is as useful on this pedal, and when I tried it on the Dracaris, which I owned briefly, it sounded very similar to what they're doing with the Pinnacle here. Although even the Pinnacle now has a redesigned EQ. And there is quite a bit of similarity in sound between the Pinnacle and what I call its little brother, the Plextortion. Although I think this was intended to be more of a modern sounding Marshall overdrive sound or Marshall distortion sound. But the Triple Rec, definitely an interesting and cool pedal, especially if you're into those kind of marked tones. I don't know that it really feels like a triple rectifier to me, but maybe if I were playing hotter pickups, it would fit that style better. Almost everything I've got is, kind of the hottest I would have would be a JB, and to me that sounded a little too harsh in this pedal. But that is those two pedals in a nutshell. Thanks.